So all the demos we've done so far are batch-based. They revolve around either a nightly load or an ETL process that runs on a scheduled time. But what if the data that you want to ingest into your Redshift cluster is actually streaming data? Well, Amazon makes it really easy to get that data into your Redshift cluster as well with the Amazon Kinesis streaming data technologies. Now there's four basic areas that you're going to work with Kinesis. You're going to either have it as a source stream, in other words, it's generating the streaming data itself. You're going to work with it in a way where it's delivering that streaming data to a destination, such as a Redshift cluster, or you might be doing real-time analytics on your data. And then they also have streaming video services, but the one we're going to focus on here is this one up here in the upper right-hand corner, delivery streaming. So for our demo, I'm going to set up just a quick little stream called test stream. Now you have two source options. You can have direct put, which is any one of these number of options down here below, or a Kinesis stream. That first option that we identified where you are actually developing your own streaming technology. Your put options include API calls through the Kinesis Firehose, which you can wire up to any number of applications through that API. So if you have your own sensor data, for example, if you're working in manufacturing that you want to constantly deliver through a stream, you could wire that directly through these APIs to a Kinesis Firehose. You have the built-in Kinesis agent, and then you have other pre-configured Amazon Web Services Internet of Things sources. You can also wire it up to CloudWatch logs or CloudWatch events. Now, before I stray too far from my goal here, what we're going to be working with is just basic puts that are already pre-configured by AWS, just so that we can test out a Kinesis stream and ingesting that into our Redshift cluster. So we'll stick with a direct put source. And then we have a transformation option. The AWS Lambda service is a service that allows you to put in real-time scripting and use that throughout a number of AWS services. Specifically here, you could create a transformation so the incoming data was aggregated or put through case statements or other business logic. And Lambda supports a whole bunch of different languages, so you can work with one that you're familiar with, a popular one being Python. Now for this simple demo, I don't really have any transformations that I want to show, so we'll just leave it disabled. And then the destination options for this specific Kinesis Firehose stream. We can deliver directly to just an S3 bucket. We can deliver to Amazon Redshift, an Elasticsearch service, or a Splunk engine. We'll pick Redshift, and right here on the configuration page, we actually get a really good flow diagram that explains exactly what we're doing. You have an identified streaming source that delivers it to a Firehose stream. You have the option of transforming those records, and then the ability to implement error handling. You could still save to an S3 bucket, or you could take these successfully transformed records to an S3 bucket as well as optional backups. Now take special note of the manner in which it gets from the S3 bucket finally to our Redshift cluster. Hello, old friend. Yep, it's the copy command. To finish configuring this stream, we just got to put in our cluster details. So I will select our existing Abacus Data Warehouse cluster, fill in the username, password, and database details. And for this demo, I don't really yet have a table, so I'm just going to type in a non-existent table just to get us past this screen. We'll actually come back and edit this here in just a minute. Now, if we already had a table and a known stream that was feeding data that we already expected, we could also list out columns. Now, you'd think that this columns field would be mandatory. But note here, if you hover over the I, it says that if you leave this blank, then basically it's going to revert to an ordinal expectation, so just the copy default. All that's left now is to select our S3 bucket, so we'll use the same Redshift load queue bucket that we've been using. And then we can ask it to use a known prefix of stream. This helps differentiate it from all the other things that we're currently storing in that load queue bucket. And then we have the ability to fill in any other items that we want in that copy command. On the sample copy command shown, it highlights in red those things that either will be replaced by the Kinesis stream or that you would need to replace on your own if you were going to test it. We're going to look at a couple of our other options, and then we'll come back and edit that more to our needs. Now, when setting up a stream, you have a buffer. The streaming data is real-time, but as we identified, Redshift doesn't necessarily want to be pestered every time there's an individual record. So I'm going to set the buffer here at 5 meg or 300 seconds. So 5 meg or 5 minutes, meaning that the Kinesis stream is going to let enough records build up where it'll either get to 5 meg or 5 minutes has gone by before it will load each batch of records. We already identified that gzip is way faster, so I'll go ahead and select that here. And then we're fine for now without encryption. We need an IAM role to run this all, and I've already pre-configured one. So I'll go ahead and just select that here, Firehose Delivery Role. If you don't already have one, you can click Create a New Role, and it'll actually create an inline role for you that has basically everything it already needs. All right, we can review our final options and then go ahead and create the stream. So one of the really nice features of setting up this stream is that Amazon sends it with an option to deliver test data so that you can make sure you've set up everything right. If we click on that test data, it even has the create table statement that we would need for our Redshift destination. The test data that AWS sends is actually real-time stock data, so ticker symbols, stock prices, things like that. Pretty good example of a real-time stream. So I'm going to copy that here. We'll switch back over to our SQL Workbench J console and go ahead and create that table. And now we can take that table name in each of these columns and go back and edit our stream so that that copy command is a little bit more specific and can receive the test data that AWS has already prepared for us. So we'll go back into the stream, click Edit up here on the right, and swap out that Firehose stream table that I was using as just a placeholder and put in the actual name. And then, even though ordinal would work, I'll go ahead and fill in those column names just to be a little bit more explicit. And you can see as I type, it's updating that sample copy command down below. Now, we also want to use JSON auto because that sample data coming from the stream source is JSON data. And then I specified that it was gzip, so I'll go ahead and add that here as well. And with those additional options, we can save and then test this stream. We'll go back to the test page here and then turn on that test data stream. Now it's going to take a little while for enough data to build up where it'll actually drop it in this S3 bucket. So I'll let that occur off screen. And either 5 meg or 5 minutes later, these two folders show up. We have the manifest for all the JSON data and the stream data here. So going back to SQL Workbench J, I'll select, let's say, top 1,000 rows. And just like that, we're getting streaming data fed continually into our Redshift cluster from an Amazon Kinesis Firehose source. Now with the APIs and all the options you have for streaming sources, as well as streaming configuration options, this is a really powerful feature. If you want to learn more about Kinesis, I would definitely look up more dedicated courses and things specific to it, because I hesitate to say that we've even scratched the surface on this one. Mostly I just wanted to identify that you could in fact use a Kinesis stream to populate your Redshift data warehouse. And with the ability to introduce Lambda functions, you can actually have a transformation layer and have a real-time ETL streaming process that uses a traditional approach to populating a data warehouse, but in real time instead of waiting for like a nightly batch load. Very, very cool stuff.